Now I have to ask you, have you ever been broke before? That's a great question. Have you ever been broke before? Have you ever been broke before? Excuse me, sir, question for you. Have you ever been broke before? So I haven't been broke. However, when I was in college a couple years ago at the University of Texas, I had maybe a couple $1,000s to my name from, working at Chick-fil-A when I was in high school. Eventually I worked construction before I went all in on the media business. So I wasn't flat broke, but I didn't, have crazy money to start out with. Who am I here with today? James Dumoulin. I'm one of the founders of the School of Hard Knocks, which has become one of the biggest business media channels in the entire world. My two co-founders and I grew the channel to over 10 million followers in just about 3 years. And we've done over 3 billion views across social media. So pretty crazy what can happen in just a few years if you put your head down, you focus, you lock yourself in and see what happens. Now I have to ask you ask a lot of people how much money they make. What was the most amount of money that you've made in a single month? Well, last month in December 2024, my business did over $600,000 in revenue. 600,000, 600K. What happened that month that you made $600,000? 2 words, vertical integration. If you don't know them, look it up, learn everything you can about them. There was a time I interviewed a gentleman in Scottsdale named Cody Sperber. He owns 4 8-figure businesses. And a piece of advice that he gave me was that a savvy entrepreneur, he looks at his business and looks at one thing. He looks at all the people that are making money off of their efforts. However, I actually added something to that piece of advice that he gave me, which is that a savvy entrepreneur looks at his business and doesn't just look at all the people that are making money off of their efforts, but all the different ways in which they can be making money, which is exactly what we did. We grew our channel to 10 million followers. And instead of trying to go start a whole bunch of different businesses and different industries, we looked at the vertical that we had, which was the 10 million followers, and the different ways that we could monetize. So there were brand deals. There was starting a content agency. There was building a private community. There was ad revenue. There's all these different streams in which we were able to vertically integrate and build a multi-million-dollar business in just a couple of years. And in the month that you made over $600,000, what was your biggest source of revenue? So it's actually brand partnerships. Content partnerships has been our biggest source of income. How much of that $600,000 was profit? Over $500,000 in profit. Yeah, our business did over $500,000 in profit this last month. Now you built your business by going all over the country, now all over the world, just interviewing and asking questions to millionaires and billionaires off the street. How many billionaires would you say that you've interviewed over the last 3 years? A lot. So I would say in the last 3 years, I've probably interviewed over 1,000 millionaires and over 15 billionaires. 15 billionaires that I know of. 15 billionaires? 15 billionaires. Now, after interviewing over 15 billionaires and the most successful people in the world across different industries, what's the greatest lesson that you've learned? What have you learned from this? It's hard. I get asked this question all the time, by the way. I'll tell you, it's really hard to boil it down to just one thing. However, after taking a lot of time to think about this and analyzing all the interviews that I've done, I've actually created and boiled it down to about 5 lessons and takeaways that I personally had of the most common traits and the most common things that I've seen the most successful people, from billionaires to Fortune 100 executives to top athletes in the world, to see exactly what they do differently from everybody else. Do you want them? Give us the first lesson right now. Okay. Number 1. Billionaires and the most successful people in the world, they master the art of this one word. If you don't know it, understand it, learn everything you can about it. Leverage. They master the art of leverage, and leverage in a lot of different ways, with people, with capital, with time. Matter of fact, let's actually pull up an example of an interview that I did recently with Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal had 155 Five Guys. He sold them all. But I asked him, what was your secret to scaling in the franchise model? How did you scale out from 1 to 10 to eventually 50, 100, and 155 locations? Here's what he had to say. You owned like 155 Five Guys at one point.
I sold them.
You sold them?
Yeah, I sold them.
What's your secret to scaling in the franchise model, or just businesses in general?
The secret to scaling is one word: delegation. You can't be in 155 places at once, but I know somebody that can.
You heard it from him right there. One word. The secret to scaling is delegating, leveraging other people to come in and be where you cannot be. You cannot be in 1,000 places at once. See, the billionaires, the most hyper successful people, they bring other people in to be able to scale their businesses out. Like I said, it's not just with people though. This is leverage also with capital, with money. I have a client who owns several $100 million worth of real estate in our content agency. And he said that you can tell how wealthy someone is by the amount of debt that they're able to leverage or take on from banks. Because wealthy people, they play a different game than everybody else. They understand how to borrow money to leverage that debt and to create more wealth on it by understanding the ins and outs of the markets that they're in, the people that are getting in on the deals, the size of the transactions, the different, whether it's residential, commercial. More importantly, where I've seen this come up time and time again and most commonly is when I ask people about negotiation. For example, I interviewed the owner of, some of the biggest banks in all of Dallas, Texas, one of the biggest cities in the world. I asked him for his best negotiation advice, and here's what he had to say.
What do you do for a living out here in Dallas, Texas?
I run banks.
What was the most amount of money that you ever made in a single year?
Oh gosh, roughly $500 million a year.
Actually, I gotta get one more.
Okay.
Negotiation. It's a big component of businesses and closing deals, and your businesses have done multiple nine figures. You're at the table with some heavy hitters. What's your best sales and negotiating advice for people trying to get better at closing clients and closing deals in today's world? Do you have a tactic for somebody that maybe they're running an agency or a type of business where they're trying to close people? What's your best negotiating advice for people trying to close more deals?
Walk away. The best deals I've done in my life, I've walked away, and they've come back.
You just heard it from him. And let's not stop there. How about Cal McNair? I mentioned him earlier, the owner of the Houston Texans, another multi-billionaire. I asked him what's his best advice on finding deals and negotiating. This is what he had to say.
Excuse me, sir. Question for you. Is this your G-Wagon?
Yeah.
What do you do for a living out in Houston, Texas to be able to afford a G-Wagon?
Sorry?
What do you do for a living out in Houston, Texas?
Work hard.
What industry are you in?
Football.
What are you doing exactly?
I own a football team.
What team?
Houston Texans.
You own the Houston Texans.
H-Town, baby.
Any negotiation advice? Somebody, they struggle to close deals in business. You've negotiated some massive deals. What's the secret to negotiating?
You want to do it, but not that bad.
What do you mean by that? You got to be able to walk away, or what?
You got to be able to walk away.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're going to be able to want to do it.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Good
I
luck,
appreciate
guys.
you. Thank you.
Did you hear that? What did they both say? You have to be willing to walk away in a negotiation. Understand this. The person who is the most willing to walk away from a deal in a negotiation will always have the leverage. You can never be desperate to get a deal done. If you're desperate, then that's when deals go to shit. Leverage with time, capital, people, and overall creating value in any scenario that you're in. You know that's not taught in school, right? Now, what's number two? Number two, they obsess over solving big problems. And I actually first dove into this concept when I interviewed a gentleman out in Houston who was a chiropractor, but he owns one of the largest medical practices in all of Texas. And here's what he had to say about solving problems.
Excuse me, sir. Question for you. Have you ever been broke before?
No.
No?
Has he ever
Well, when I was a
what?
kid,
Yeah.
not now.
What do you do for a living out here in Houston, Texas?
I'm a chiropractor.
Chiropractor. What was the biggest risk you took throughout your career?
Opening my own business.
How long have you been an entrepreneur for?
18 years.
18 years, almost 20 years. What was the most amount of money that you ever made in a single year?
$1.7 million.
$1.7 million. What took you from making 6 to 7 figures at your business?
Well, the key to any business is give people what they want or need, you'll become successful. If you solve people's problems, you'll become wealthy. So learn what the problem is, solve the problem. Well, that's not my quote. I'm not accepting that, but I practice that. I apply that.
You heard it from him. If you give people what they want or need, you become rich. But if you solve people's problems, you become wealthy. Take the biggest entrepreneurs, the biggest owners, the biggest business owners in the entire world. They go after massive markets and they solve huge problems for not just a couple thousand, a couple hundred, but millions and billions of people if you really think about it, right? I interviewed a gentleman, Zane Jan, who owns a multiple nine-figure, like a $300 million solar company out in Miami, Florida. And he broke this down better than I've ever heard explained before. Here's what he had to say.
You're the CEO of one of the largest solar companies in the entire country. What has been the most amount of money that you've ever made in a single year?
My business did 149 million last year, and we should do double that this year. I believe if you want to be a great entrepreneur, you have to solve problems. Elon Musk once said, you get paid in direct proportion to the size of the problems that you solve. There weren't many problems that I thought that I could solve that were very massive and big to the world. When you look at a waiter, what problem is a waiter solving? Well, they're helping you get your favorite meal. Maybe they're walking you through the menu and they're bringing the food over. Now, labor-wise, that might be a hard job, but mentally it takes a very, small portion of your IQ in order to fulfill on that job and that duty. So when I go up into a room of 100 people and say, hey, physically and mentally, how possible is it for anyone in this room to be a waiter? 99 or 100 out of 100 people will say that they can literally be a waiter. Not that they want to be, but that they can be. Now when I go into that same room of people and say, hey, how many of you are confident that you could build a rocket ship that's going to go to Mars? 0 out of 100 people will raise their hand.
You heard it from him. If you take a waitress or even maybe a teacher for that matter, that teacher at the end of the year, maybe they're impacting 100, maybe 200 people at most. So they're solving problems, but it's at a very small scale. Whereas if you take somebody who's running a massive multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar company, we brought up Elon Musk. Well, look at what he's doing. He's solving global energy with Tesla and renewable energy, as well as interplanetary space travel with SpaceX. So those are problems at a scale, and that's why he's
the richest, sir, if not one of the wealthiest people in the entire world because of the proportion of the problems that he's solving. I love that. What's number 3? Number 3, this one right here is going to hit different. The most successful people, they attach themselves to other people and they prioritize relationships over transactions. See, there's a saying that's stuck with me the last couple years in running this channel. It's that people will take you places that money can't. There's certain doors that money or anything else won't be able to get you in. The only thing that can simply get you in those doors is by the route of connections. And once you understand that relationship capital, that your net worth isn't calculated by the amount of money that you have, but by the access to the amount of money that you have within your network of people, that's when you realize how successful you really are. Everybody hears the saying, your network is your net worth. Well, that saying cannot be more true in today's world. Let's hear it from Grant Cardone, who manages over $5 billion worth of real estate at his company and raises, hundreds of millions of dollars every single year. Hear it from him.
You got to attach yourself to people because you cannot get money. There's no money that will ever come to another human being without going through another human being. You're going to hold on to how much money you got on you right now?
On me right now?
Yeah. What you got on you?
None.
Just reach in there. You got nothing?
I don't have any cash on me right now.
You got a credit card? You got something?
I got some credit
Let me see your credit card. So you see, he's got some money on him, okay? But what's the conduit, the via between me and his credit card? It's him. Now, 2 ways to get his credit card, right? Okay, I'm not going to show you these numbers right here, but this is legit. But I had to make contact with him to get his credit card, or I got to wait for him to leave his wallet someplace and steal it. I don't want to steal. I'm not a thief because I can only steal it one time. But if I could, create a relationship with you, the way to money, there you go. The way to money, you might see 200 already gone. So the way to money is through people. It's not through a bank.
You heard it right there. Anytime wealth is transferred, a transaction happens. It's impossible for it to not go from one person to the other. And I want to give another one right here. Thomas Kahinde, a multimillionaire insurance broker out in Miami, Florida. When he told me this right here, this changed my life. In the money business, in finance, whenever wealth is transferred from one person to another, there's somebody in the middle there that's helping transfer their wealth. Well, that person in the middle always becomes wealthy. Hear it from him.
Yeah. How can somebody become a millionaire in 2024?
I want you to think about this for a second. Anytime wealth is transferred from one hand to the other, somebody is in the middle that is helping to transfer the wealth. Whoever that person is also becomes wealthy.
I genuinely cannot stress this point enough. I've interviewed some of the wealthiest people that have ever worked on Wall Street, and they never even placed a financial trade in their lives. They got rich off of a handshake because they simply made the right introductions, were able to connect the right people, or just simply brokering a deal. And that's a concept that a lot of people, they have this misconception that in order for them to create extreme amounts of wealth, that they have to be so talented at learning how to code or develop some crazy software, when in reality, if you just understand people, how to build rapport, how to build relationships, how to establish those connections, you can become wealthy just by doing that, just off of a simple handshake. I want to leave one more with us today. I want to go back to Stephen Klubeck, the Beverly Hills multi-billionaire. Here's what he had to say.
How old were you when you became a millionaire?
You have to ask a millionaire.
What do you mean?
I'm a billionaire.
You're a billionaire?
Yeah.
How old were you when you became a billionaire?
Oh, in my 50s.
How important were relationships for you?
Relationships are always very important, but a matter of fact, you got to stay out of one zip code, the zip code of bad people. If they're around your life, make them go away.
And there you have it. From once again, not just me, but a multi-billionaire. Now, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you have real dreams?
Yes.
Is there a shortcut to them?
No.
Yes, there is. The shortcut is mentorship. And let me tell you this, over the last 3 years, in building a multi-billion-dollar network of people that I know and I'm connected to, building this channel to 10 million followers was through that one concept of mentorship. And when I first started this channel, my partners and I, we originally had wanted to go learn how the most successful people got to where they were in different industries. But it eventually grew to the point where we wanted to connect as many people as possible with the most successful people in the world that we have the ability to interview and actually build relationships with. And that's why a couple months ago, I actually launched and created one of the largest entrepreneur communities in the entire world called the School of Mentors, where every single week I host live mentorship calls. For the people that join the community, they have the ability to hop on these calls and ask their questions directly to the multimillionaires and the billionaires that I'm interviewing. Ask them anything. Nothing's off limits. Asking them about different skills like how to sell, how to negotiate like a billionaire would. For example, Stephen Klubeck, he was a mentor on a call. He taught our community how to negotiate like a billionaire billionaire word, how to find investors, who to not take money from, because not all money is good money. We had people like Todd Napola, who owns several $100 million worth of real estate. He taught our community how to find deals, how to get access to capital if you don't have any money, and how to invest in real estate without having any money to your name. Or how about the former CEO of 7-Eleven? He came and taught our community leadership and how to work your way up in the business world. And I'll give you one more, Sean Mike. He took a company to $3 billion in sales in a matter of a few years. He taught our community the art of sales and how to scale from not just a 6, but to eventually a 7, 8, and a 9-figure business. These are mentors that we have on the calls every single week where you guys will get direct access to them to ask them any questions about how to go from point A to point B in your business. So if you were watching right now and you want to join this community at the lowest the price will ever be, matter of fact, I'll tell you, you can join right now for 7 days, money back guarantee. You join it and it's completely free for those 7 days. If you don't like it, money back guarantee. But I guarantee you, if you give it a shot, you hop on those calls, you go indulge in some of the content that's in that community, you will never, ever regret it. So I can't wait to see all you guys inside of the community. If you want to join, go down to the link in the description of this video, the School of Mentors. Can't wait to see you inside. Let's get back to these lessons. Let's go to number 4. They are masters at selling themselves. See, I learned this statistic recently that 75% of billionaires, they started off in some form of direct sales. And there's a gentleman that I mentioned before, Todd Napola, owns a couple $100 million worth of real estate out in South Florida. And he gave me this piece of advice that really stuck with me about the world's most successful people.
You're always selling. And anybody who thinks you're going to be in business without selling is sadly mistaken. You will sell forever. And I will assure you, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, the richest guys on the planet are still selling themselves all day long, or you're out of business.
You heard it from him. The world's most successful people are still selling themselves to this very day, and they don't stop doing it. If Elon Musk was in this room with us right now, if he wanted $10,000, $20,000, $100,000 from us, whether we had it to our names or not, we by all means are going to find a way to go get him that money because of who he is, because of the person that he's become, because of the way that he's able to sell himself. Take the most successful people, Mark Cuban, Gary Vee. They can go into any company headquarters, Coca-Cola, and go land a $50 million deal just off the premise of the way that they're able to sell themselves, being able to storytell. Look at Steve Jobs and how he was able to present Apple. Apple's not Apple today if it wasn't for Steve Jobs and his ability to storytell, to sell the company and be able to sell himself. So you need to learn how to sell. Just as much as it's important to have product knowledge, learning how to close, you need to be able to learn how to sell yourself, because that is going to take you further than anything in sales. You got to learn how to sell. Now, you've interviewed over 1,000 millionaires and billionaires. Give us that 5th lesson right here. Number 5, arguably one of the most underrated tools. Billionaires and the most successful people, they think in decades, not in days. Let's hear it from a Miami banker who owns the largest bank in all of Miami.
Question for you, sir. Is this your Rolls Royce?
Yes.
And what do you do for living out of Miami, Florida to be able to afford a Rolls Royce?
Investment banking.
Investment banking.
Real estate.
How long have you been in finance for?
35 years.
Have you ever met a billionaire before?
I know a lot of billionaires.
What's that?
I know a lot of billionaires.
You know a lot of billionaires.
That's my job.
Are you a billionaire?
Well, you can say that.
Yeah?
Yeah, it make you feel good, right?
You're a billionaire.
Well, you can say that.
Yeah, that's incredible. How can somebody become a billionaire like you?
I'll tell you.
Tell them.
7 days, 14 hours a day, 35 years. Master of one.
35 years. But I don't want to just leave it at that. How about Dean Graziosi? Let's hear what he has to say about making quick money.
What was the most amount of money that you ever made in a single year?
I won't share that, but my brands have done over $1 billion.
Your brands have done over $1 billion.
Yeah. So a lot of people watch this video, right? If you can comment below, I would love for any of you, to write down how you got rich for hardly doing anything, you got rich fast. I bet you won't find one comment. No one gets rich overnight. Do some people get lucky? Is there somebody who bought crypto at $1,000, didn't even know, and now it's, of course. And that's 1/10 of 1%. When you see, and you know, because you're interviewing successful people, you know, when you get behind the scenes, they put in the time, they failed miserably, they questioned themselves, family thought they were nuts, their friends thought they were crazy, they had to sacrifice certain things. That's how you get to that next level.
Just like he said, nobody gets rich overnight. This is a long game. You got to think in 10, 20, 30, 40 years. All these people, Jeff Bezos was running Amazon. He didn't step down as the CEO until like 20 or 30 years after he was running the company. Let's pull up Eric Spofford, who sold a business for over $115 million. Listen to what he has to say about patience and delayed gratification.
What has been the most amount of money that you've ever made in a single year?
I cracked over $100 million in 1 year. 2021. Hell yeah. Let me give you another little golden nugget. This is where most of you guys fuck up. You guys think it happens fast and then you don't look at the long term. You need to have macro patience and micro urgency. What you guys have is micro patience and macro urgency. And what I mean by that is you need to know that this is going to take a long time. People look at my life and they don't see the 17 fucking years that happened before I was out here in Miami living this life. And so they miscalibrate on how long it's going to take. They think it's going to happen faster than it is. You need to commit to this for a long period of time. That's macro patience. And then have micro urgency. Every single fucking day, you give it absolutely everything that you have to give.
Let's fucking go, Eric. Come on, bro.
Hear that again. Macro patience and micro urgency. You need to understand that this is going to take a long time to get to where you want to be. But that doesn't take away from the fact that in the short term, you need to be relentless about your pursuit to becoming successful. Because if you're not, then somebody is going to come up within your space and it's going to overtake you. Pour gas down their throats. No matter what business you're in, you need to be relentless in the short term, but have the mindset that it is going to take a long time. This is a long game. Business is not an overnight thing. But if you can apply that and have that principle and understand the importance of taking action in the short term, then it will all work out. And one more advice that I really want to add on here that I think is very important, that isn't talked about enough, is from a gentleman out in Scottsdale I interviewed named Brian North. Roll it.
At your real estate brokerage, what's the most amount of money that you guys have sold in revenue in 1 year?
$1.4 billion.
$1.4 billion.
Build a good reputation. My dad always says it takes 20 years to build a good reputation and 5 minutes to kill it.
It takes a long time, years, 5, 10, 20 years to build a solid reputation with people and only 5 minutes to kill it. So again, the fifth greatest lesson that I've learned is the importance of that patience and understanding to not think in days, but decades. All right, now I know you said that there were only 5 lessons. Is there any way you have one more bonus for us before we leave here today? Give us one more thing that you've learned from interviewing the most successful people in the world. One more bonus lesson if you have one. You need one more? Okay, well, one thing that I've learned, and if you've ever consumed any of my content, you'll probably start to realize that the most successful people in the world, I can guarantee you a lot of them, they came from nothing. But when they get to a point of success, you can take everything away from them, and they have it in their mindset that they know that they can make it all back. Let's take, for example, I interviewed the richest Indian man who's living in Dubai. Here's what he had to say about that when I asked him if I took everything away from him, if he lost everything, could he make it all back?
What was the most amount of money that you've made in a single year?
10 billion dirhams.
10 billion dirhams. Yeah. Are you a billionaire?
I suppose I'm a billionaire, yes.
You're a billionaire?
Yeah.
What's your name?
My name is Rizwan Sajan.
If you lost everything tomorrow, could you make it all back?
If you put me in the African jungle also, I'll make also there. I will sell the property to the animals over there.
Yeah, he said he would sell property to animals.
So you heard it from him. You could put him in the jungle and he would be selling properties to animals. And that's something that I think is very important to note on. And again, if you've consumed any of my content, you'll see this time and time again. They have this unwavering belief in themselves that nothing's impossible, that if you take everything away from them, because they have the mindset and the skill sets once, you can take their capital, you can take their family, you can take everything. But once they have that ability to build, they will build it back, and they will build it back 10 times bigger than ever before. I love it. Well, I got to say, it was a pleasure having you here with us today. Thank you so much for having me, man. I really enjoyed the conversation. It was great to be here. Where can everybody find you at? So, the School of Hard Knocks on all platforms. A lot of you maybe have seen the content before, but yeah, check out the School of Hard Knocks. And like I mentioned earlier in the video, you guys, be sure to become a member of my private community, the School of Mentors. Like I said, guys, of all the lessons that I've said, the one thing that's going to get you to where you need to be in your business, financially, your career, is through mentorship. And I'm bringing you guys every single week the world's most successful people to directly answer your questions about anything: sales, marketing, scaling, leadership, hiring, everything, coming directly to you on live calls every single week at the most affordable price of any mentorship program that I've ever seen in my entire life. To join, like we said earlier, go to the link down in the description of this video to join the School of Mentors today. I can't wait to see all of you guys on the inside of this community. So yeah, that's where you can find me at. Awesome. Guys, be sure to like and subscribe for amazing content we've got coming every single week, and click right here to watch our full interview with business mogul Patrick Bet David. I can't wait to see you guys in the next video.